What if you had just 40 square meters to build your entire home? Could you still fit a living room, kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, laundry area, and even a space for a housekeeper? Well, this architect did exactly that. This is the home of Arman Masudi, an architect from Bandung, Indonesia, who designed his own house on a surprisingly narrow piece of land. So, how did he make such a small home feel surprisingly spacious? Let's take a look. The house sits on a 68 square meter lot measuring just 4.5 meters wide and 15.3 meters deep. The building itself occupies only 40 square meters, has two building masses, one for its main building area and the other for housekeeper and storage room, located on the mezzanine floor. Starting from the outside, the house has a very simple and minimalist appearance, keeping the overall look subtle and understated rather than massive or imposing. The facade is mostly white, combined with wood accents and clean geometric lines. There's only one small window on the facade, just enough to let some natural light into the house. But then, what are these three little dots for? Well, simply put, aesthetics. Because the overall design is so simple, even the smallest details become much more important. Take the roof, for example. This house uses metal roofing coated with asphalt, which is lightweight, durable, and helps reduce noise from rain. And because the material is relatively light, it also helps reduce the amount of lightweight steel framing needed to support the roof. This allows the roof to have a relatively low pitch of around 25 degrees, so the gabled roof doesn't visually dominate the facade. Mas Arman also added a small section of transparent roofing, allowing even more natural light to enter the house. There's also a rather unusual detail here, a clean, silvery rain gutter connected to a chain. This helps guide the rainwater down instead of letting it splash all over the ground. And finally, there's this bright red mailbox. It creates a small but intentional contrast against the neutral facade, while also helping identify the entrance. It's a great example of how even a very minimalist house can still have its own personality. Moving toward the front, there's a roughly 5-meter long carport finished with small pebbles. It's spacious enough to park one medium-sized car and two motorcycles. The carport has quite an interesting design, especially compared to what we usually see in Indonesian houses. Most homes here tend to have large canopies over their carports to protect the cars from Indonesia's intense sun and heavy rain. But here, the carport is left completely open. The fence uses expanded wire mesh and stands about 1.2 meters high, providing just enough privacy without completely blocking the house from the street. The most interesting part of this area isn't the carport. It's the narrow corridor running along the side of the house, which is only 1.2 meters wide. At first, this might seem like leftover space, but in this house, it's actually an important part of the design. The corridor provides circulation, helps maintain privacy from the street, and most importantly, allows air and natural light to reach the interior. And that's one of the key lessons from this house. When you have a small lot, don't automatically treat leftover space as wasted space. Sometimes that space can actually make the rest of the house work better. Now, let's step inside. As soon as we enter, we're greeted by two pathways. One leads upstairs to the housekeeper's area, while the other takes us into the main house. So, let's head into the main house first, shall we? Despite having only 40 square meters of built-up area, the interior doesn't immediately feel like a tiny house. The biggest reason is the way the main living space is organized. Instead of dividing everything into small individual rooms, the kitchen, dining area, and living room are combined into one open-plan space. There are no heavy walls separating these areas, allowing your eyes to travel much further through the house. This makes the entire space feel larger than its actual dimensions. And then there's another clever move. Instead of having a completely flat ceiling, the ceiling follows the slope of the roof. This creates more vertical volume in the center of the house, making the space feel much larger than it actually is. There's also a 30 centimeter wide skylight that brings natural light down into the living area, just like we mentioned earlier. Combined with the windows on the side corridor, The house gets natural light from multiple directions. So although the floor area is limited, the visual volume of the space is much greater. And that's an important distinction. A small house doesn't necessarily have to feel small. Furniture selection also plays an important role here. Mas Arman chose small and compact furniture throughout the house, so the pieces don't overwhelm the limited space. The kitchen cabinetry is also custom built, allowing it to fit perfectly into the available space and make use of every possible corner. Of course, an open-plan house still needs some privacy, and instead of building a solid wall between the living room and bedroom, the architect uses something much lighter, a bookshelf and CD rack. It works as a visual divider between the two spaces, the communal area and the bedroom area, while still allowing light and air to move through. But it also provides storage and becomes part of the interior design. This is another recurring idea throughout the house. One element doesn't have to perform just one function. A partition can also be storage, a corridor can also provide ventilation, and a ceiling can become a tool for creating a greater sense of space. In a tiny house, multifunctional design isn't just convenient, it's essential. Now let's take a look at the bedroom. This is where you can really see how carefully every centimeter has been planned. The room accommodates a 180 centimeter wide bed, together with a dedicated area for built-in wardrobe that's about 60 centimeters deep. Rather than relying on lots of freestanding furniture, the built-in wardrobe makes use of the available wall space. This is an important point when designing a small home. You don't necessarily have to make every piece of furniture tiny. Instead, you need to make sure that the furniture is properly proportioned and positioned within the room. Because good, small space design isn't about having less. It's about using what you have more efficiently. Moving further to the back, we find the laundry area, and this is probably one of the smallest laundry spaces we've seen in a house tour. But despite its tiny footprint, it still manages to fit everything you would normally need for a laundry and service area. There's a washing machine underneath the countertop, while the countertop itself provides a convenient space for folding clothes or storing everyday cleaning supplies. Above it, there's also a transparent roof, which brings plenty of natural light into the space while keeping it protected from the rain. And because this is essentially an outdoor service area, the walls are kept simple and practical, with enough room to store cleaning tools, buckets, and other household essentials. And this is probably one of the clearest examples of the design philosophy behind this entire house. When space is limited, you don't necessarily need more space, you just need to use the space you have more efficiently. Besides the laundry, we could find the bathroom. Despite its relatively compact size, the bathroom is designed to feel bright and open. The shower area is separated from the rest of the bathroom using a clear glass partition, which helps keep the wet area contained without making the room feel more enclosed. And instead of having a regular window at eye level, there are several high-level windows along the upper wall. This allows plenty of natural light to come in while still maintaining privacy. The wood-look slatted flooring inside the shower adds a warmer, more natural touch and creates a nice contrast against the neutral tones. Even the smaller details have been carefully considered. There's a built-in shelf for toiletries, while the water heater is mounted high on the wall, keeping the limited floor area clear. And with the large mirror reflecting the light around the room, the bathroom feels a little more spacious than it actually is. It's a small bathroom, but just like the rest of the house, almost every element here has been designed to make the most of the available space. And there's actually another level to this house. The second floor is accessed through a relatively steep staircase, which is understandable given how limited the available space is. Up here is a compact room for the housekeeper and storage area, measuring only around 1.2 meters wide along with a bathroom. Well, I must say that this is absolutely efficient. There's also access to the utilities area for water tank up here. It's not a conventional second floor designed for a large bedroom or entertainment space. Instead, it's another example of the architect assigning each part of the house a very specific purpose. Nothing is oversized, but almost nothing is wasted either. So, how much did it cost to build this 40 square meter home? Construction took a little over 4 months, from December 2023 to April 2024. The civil construction cost around 350 million Indonesian rupiah, which was roughly 20,000 US dollars at the time. This included the demolition of the previous house and the structural work needed to prepare the building for 2 floors. The interior cost approximately 50 million rupiah or around 3,000 US dollars. That brings the total cost for the first phase to around 400 million rupiah or roughly 23,000 US dollars based on today's exchange rate. Of course, if we were to convert that amount using today's construction costs, the figure would likely be quite different. But what's interesting isn't just the final number, it's how that budget was used to create a home where every square meter has a purpose. At the end of the day, this house proves that a small lot doesn't necessarily mean you have to settle for a small lifestyle. With just 40 square meters of built-up area, Mas Arman, the architect, managed to create spaces for living, cooking, dining, sleeping, laundry, and even a separate room for a housekeeper. And perhaps the biggest lesson from this home is simple. Small homes aren't about having less space. They're about making every piece of space work harder. Because with the right design, even a 4.5 meter wide lot can become a home that feels comfortable, bright, and surprisingly spacious. This is Arman Masudi's 40 square meter home. And if you enjoy discovering unique homes and the architectural ideas behind them, make sure to subscribe to WM Homes. I'll see you in the next house tour.